13 years the trucks rolled in every Thursday, precise as a metronome at 7:30, sometimes earlier, rarely later. Drivers never lingered. They pulled up to the fence, tipped the beds, emptied loads of rough-cut white oak, and were gone. Many assumed Margaret Hale despised them. She didn't. Each arrival brought promise. The strange pact began in 1992. Margaret had just inherited 85 acres from her grandfather, Samuel Hale, land bordering the county lumber yard. The mill faced a problem: offcuts too valuable to trash, too twisted to sell. Hauling them to landfills cost money, burning them squandered hardwood. One rainy afternoon the yard manager appeared at her door, cap in hand. "Afternoon," he said. Margaret smiled. "Come in." Instead he pointed toward the fence. "We've got a question." Silence stretched. "What kind?" He scratched his neck. "Mind if we dump oak behind your north pasture?" Margaret frowned. "Why?" "We're paying to haul it away." Long pause. "So," he shrugged, "if you've got room." Margaret glanced at the pasture's unused corner, rocky and poorly drained. "How much?" The manager laughed. "More than you'd believe." Margaret smiled. "Fine." Neither grasped then how those words would shape 2 decades. The first truck came the next Thursday, then another, then another. Piles swelled. Most pieces seemed worthless, crooked, uneven, odd lengths, bark clinging to edges. Neighbors called it junk. Others deemed it firewood. Samuel called it something else. One evening at 16, Margaret trailed him to the piles. He lifted a thick white oak slab, ran his hand along the grain, then grinned. "Pretty," Margaret laughed. "This," he nodded. "Most beautiful board here." She squinted. It looked rough, worked, imperfect. "What do you see?" Samuel tilted it toward the sun. Golden light revealed swirling grain beneath the rough bark. "Furniture," he said. She frowned. "Nobody could build with that." He chuckled. "The tree already did the hard part." Those words never left her. After Samuel died, Margaret inherited more than land: woodworking tools, old hand planes, chisels, books, and notebooks filled with designs and techniques. One sentence repeated: "Straight boards build houses. Interesting boards build heirlooms." She read it until it became a blueprint. The Thursday trucks kept coming. Oak piles grew massive. People joked. Dale Harper pointed at her truck at the diner. "There she is," he said. Rick nodded. "The lumber lady, the junk collector." Laughter erupted, comfortable and familiar. A farmer asked, "How much firewood now?" Margaret smiled. "Too much." "You planning to heat the county?" "No." "What then?" She gazed at the hills. "Tables." The room exploded. "Tables. From scrap. Those crooked boards." She nodded. No one believed her. She'd never sold furniture, never run a workshop, never advertised. The next winter she opened Samuel's journals. Nights turned to weeks practicing dovetails, joints, glue-ups. The first table was a disaster. The second slightly better. The third almost level. By the 15th something shifted. The grain, the character, the live edges everyone called flaws transformed into beauty. Margaret stopped seeing scrap. She began seeing stories. Nathan wandered into the workshop one evening, saw shavings everywhere, half-finished tables against every wall. "You're doing it again," he said. Margaret looked up. "What?" "The workshop," he smiled. "That means you're obsessed." "Probably." He touched a slab. "This came from the pile. Thursday's delivery," she said. Outside, the fence seemed to hold endless potential. Spring brought the craft fair. She rented the tiniest booth, one dining table, 2 benches. People admired, touched the grain, asked questions. No purchases. The drive home felt hollow. Nathan tried to cheer. They remembered them. She wasn't sure. The next fair sold one table to a retired couple. They paid cash, insisted on loading it themselves. Margaret watched them leave, feeling something new, a customer who wanted what she'd made. Orders trickled in slowly. Restaurants asked for larger tables. A bed and breakfast ordered 6. A winery requested tasting room furniture. No advertising, everything came through word of mouth. Meanwhile, the Thursday trucks arrived. Piles never shrank. Each load held another future tabletop, another bench, another chance. One humid July afternoon, a furniture designer visited the winery, studied her oak table for 20 minutes. "Who made this?" he asked the owner. "Local woman," came the reply. 3 days later, he toured her workshop. He ran his hands over stacks of slats, drying racks, finished pieces. "This isn't scrap wood," he said. Margaret crossed her arms. "I know." He looked at the towering oak piles behind the fence, then back at her. "You have enough here for years." "Probably." A pause. "Have you ever considered selling outside the county?" The question lingered all week. She'd never seriously thought about it. The workshop kept her busy enough. Every table sold before the next was finished. Restaurants recommended her. Lodges ordered sets. Families waited months. Business felt steady. The designer marveled at the drying stacks, the finished topbacks leaning against walls. Outside, another truck from the lumber yard backed up, driver waving. Margaret waved back. "You know," the designer said, "companies pay thousands for lumber like this." She nodded toward the fresh pile. "I've never paid $1, he laughed. "That's why you should think bigger." A month later, he invited her to a regional exhibition. She refused at first. Nathan convinced her, "You've got nothing to lose." She loaded 3 dining tables onto a borrowed trailer, 1 farmhouse, 1 modern live edge, 1 traditional trestle. Each came from what others called scrap. The hall buzzed with giant companies, professional lighting, sales teams. Margaret's booth, 3 tables, a folding chair, a handwritten sign seemed small. Visitors stopped, drawn by the wood. They traced the grain, studied live edges, asked where it came from. "Behind my fence," she always said. Most assumed she was joking. By day one's end, all 3 tables sold. By day 2, business cards filled a notebook. Interior designers, hotel owners, architects. One buyer asked, "Can you produce more?" Margaret hesitated. "I think so." The next year transformed everything. She expanded the workshop, not a factory, but a larger craft studio. 3 local woodworkers joined, then 2 more. Young craftsmen seeking furniture, making over house framing. Every Thursday the trucks arrived. Piles vanished as quickly as they appeared. One afternoon the lumber yard manager visited. He watched employees sort fresh white oak, then laughed. "You know," Margaret looked up. "What?" "We used to pay thousands monthly to trash this," she smiled. "I remember." He shook his head. "Now we're delivering your inventory." The county still didn't grasp it. More workers, trailers. Deliveries. They assumed Margaret had a busy hobby. The nickname shifted. No longer junk collector, now the table lady. Jokes continued. At the diner, Dale watched another trailer of finished furniture roll by. "There goes another table," Rick laughed. "How many people need tables?" Margaret walked in. "Business good, very. Still making tables from garbage. Still. I'll never understand it," she smiled. "You don't have to." 2 years later, a national magazine photographer visited. He spent hours capturing furniture, oak piles, hand tools, old sheds. The article sparked interest. Design blogs picked it up, then interior designers, then buyers nationwide. Emails poured in faster than she could answer. Waiting lists stretched 8 months. Nathan dropped a stack of orders on her desk. "You're gonna need help." Margaret smiled at the pile. "I know, lots of help," she smiled. "I know." The biggest surprise came 6 months later. A national retailer executive requested a visit. She nearly declined, assumed someone else would handle such accounts. Instead, a team arrived one rainy Tuesday. They toured every building, examined joinery, watched sanding, studied finishes. The lead buyer rested both hands on a massive live-edge table, closed his eyes, then smiled. "This is exactly what we're looking for." Margaret stayed silent. "We're launching a collection built around authentic American craftsmanship," he continued. "We like your tables to be part of it." Silence settled. Nathan looked at Margaret. She gazed beyond the window at the oak piles, then back. "You're serious?" "Very." Negotiations spanned months. Margaret insisted on keeping production local, solid American oak, no overseas manufacturing, no particle board, no veneers. The retailer agreed. Orders began the following spring. For the first time, Margaret's dining tables appeared in high-end showrooms nationwide. The county remained unaware until Saturday. Dale and his wife shopped for furniture. His wife stopped dead. "Dale." "What?" "No," he frowned. "What?" She pointed. A massive live-edge white oak table gleamed under elegant lights. A small sign read, "Margaret Hale Workshop." Dale stared, then nodded slowly. "I think that's your table, lady." The drive home was quiet. Monday morning the diner buzzed early. Dale carried a furniture catalog, dropped it on the counter. "No," Rick said. "What now?" Dale opened it. Photographs showed her table center stage. Silence fell. Someone whispered, "She built that." Dale nodded. "From the lumber piles." By lunchtime, the entire county knew. That afternoon, the lumber yard manager delivered another truckload. This time, employees unloaded first. They watched workers sort oak, assemble tables, move slabs. One shook his head. We've been throwing away a furniture business for 13 years. The manager smiled. Looks like we have. One autumn evening, Nathan stood beside Margaret, overlooking the property. The oak piles remained, smaller now but endless. Beyond them, the expanded workshop buzzed with activity, delivery trucks loading finished pieces, employees locking up. The scent of fresh-cut white oak drifted in the cool air. Nathan folded his arms. What still bothers me, Margaret smiled. What? They called it junk. For years. They laughed. Margaret nodded. I know. Long silence settled over the farm. Finally, Nathan asked, so what did Grandpa actually see? Margaret picked up a rough slab from the newest delivery. Bark clung to twisted edges. Most would call it firewood. She tilted it toward the setting sun. Golden light revealed swirling grain beneath the rough surface, exactly as Samuel had done years before. She smiled. He saw the table hiding inside the tree. For 13 years, the lumber yard believed it paid to discard waste. The county thought Margaret collected scrap. Neighbors saw firewood, crooked boards, worthless cut-offs. Margaret saw something different: possibility, patience, craftsmanship. Every Thursday, another truck backed to the fence, unloading what others rejected. One board at a time, one table at a time, one customer at a time, until the wood, once destined for landfills, became handcrafted dining tables admired across the country. Because sometimes the greatest value isn't in finding better materials. It's in seeing what everyone else has already decided isn't worth seeing.